Welcome to B Cube Sunday morning. It is a wonderful day as we are here with Brenda and Phil and Clare, and I will allow them a moment after I get through with my blurb to introduce their guest, which is a very appropriate guest here on this the celebration of the first recorded zombie. Um, the we are um, let's just hope that Trump's little adventure war of ego, or as I've been calling it, the micro penis exchange. The don't look to me, guys, for anybody thinking that there is any dignity to war. Um, the So we are here, and I will tell you that as and nobody gets to ever get tired of seeing this.
What is it?
This is the cover for our upcoming book.
Ooh, you got it.
Our American Storm. And it's for a book with 61 stories and poems and such. It's taking longer to edit, but we're getting pieces and parts out as we move forward. And it's been a pleasure working with Karen Anderson on this.
Mm-hmm.
And as it always is. So that's a coming. Jeff Sturgeon, our artist. Reminder, he is on June 28th going to.
Oops.
There he is. We lost him for a second.
Don't go away, Chris.
There he is.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
I didn't know I left. I'm sorry.
Don't touch anything.
And so that's what we got going on up here, other than spring planting, because as winter came not, spring's coming early, and it is going to be the summer from hell for those of you who are not ready to die in a sweltering heat wave over the summer. And so that said, I am going to say thank you and turn this over to the women of BQ Brunch and Christian, I'm sorry. When they said his name was Chris, I immediately said, "Oh, Christopher." And now I have to flush my brain of the wrong data. Sometimes that's harder than you think. So good morning, everybody.
Okay, Bob. Okay, good morning, all. I see a bunch of our regulars have already checked in over in the chat column.
Hey, hi, everybody.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. For some people, this is a major holiday. For some people, it's a nothing day. So take your pick. You all know Brenda, and you know Clare, and I talk my ass off. But today we have Christian Reedy from Launchpad. And I'm going to let him explain what Launchpad is and why it is so valuable to all of us writers who think we're writing science fiction. So take it, Chris.
Well, thanks so much, and good morning, and it's great to be here. So hi, yeah. So I'm Christian Reddy, and I'm one of two of the main instructors of the Launchpad Astronomy Workshop for writers. Launchpad is a free workshop, or at least we try to make it free, and I'm glad to say that we can do that again this year. But it's intended to give writers of various subgenres, and not even strictly science fiction either, but anybody who is a creative professional, be they an editor or a screenwriter or anything like that. And the deal is to help get them through like a week, like a crash course in astronomy, at the university level, but still very much an introductory astronomy. And so, as the name implies, it serves as that initial starting point that they can then use to, go from there and then really start to dig in deep and work out their stories and, try to come up with, even if they don't consider it to be hard science fiction, just something that's a bit more realistic and plausible.
Yeah. Now, I've written a couple of space operas. And I did a lot of hand wavy magic part.
Right.
It's just easier that way.
Of course.
And going into hyperspace, a different reality almost, rather than deal with the math of creating a faster than light drive.
Right.
So do you have opinions about that? About the way we describe those things?
Well, I think it's really going to depend on what you're trying to accomplish in your story, and if that's coming through in the story. So rather than refer to a book, I'll just refer to Star Wars. I don't think anybody seriously thinks that is meant to be, quote, hard science fiction or in any way realistic. I think space opera is a pretty apt description of it. Star Trek, on the other hand, tried historically to be a little bit more plausible, but nobody would regard that as being up there with 2001: A Space Odyssey, which did a marvelous job of keeping everything as plausible and realistic. So to answer your question, what are my opinions of that? I guess it really depends on what it is I'm watching and whether or not I think that they're trying to pass themselves off as like a plausible science fiction story. Sometimes, though, it's even when it's not intended to be, as accurate and realistic as we'd like, it's still sometimes a bit of a disappointment because it's like, ooh, this could have been done very, very deftly, both accurate and as a way of educating the audience a little bit, and that's the main impetus for the Launchpad workshop, because whether we like it or not, we do learn from our entertainment. We're influenced by it. We assume that what gets put into print or put on screen must be right, must have been vetted somehow. And it's seldom, not seldom, but often is not the case. And there's what a shame. That's an opportunity missed there. So I think anytime we can help, creative professionals who do have an audience, even if they don't want to start busting out equations and calculating stuff in front of the audience, just knowing how to do that and how to at least explain it in a more plausible way, I think is definitely a benefit to the audience receiving it.
Yeah. And strictly as an author and an editor, to me, the space travel is a gimmick. It's not part of the plot. I have friends who are more scientifically minded, and they will argue to the end of days that the science is the story. So is there a plausible faster than light means of travel?
Well, not that we know of. Certainly, all of our best current understanding of space, time, and gravity is Einstein's theory of general relativity. And it doesn't strictly say that nothing may go faster than light. That's actually a misconception. But what it does do is it sets the speed of light as a universal speed limit, as an upper limit to the universe. And that the implication, therefore, is that you cannot travel faster than light. So the reality is, if we take that as, if we assume the implication, well, maybe we'll directly answer your question. So no, we don't have a mechanism to exceed light, although there has been some theoretical work done that adheres well to relativity itself, that postulates, well, we could, in theory, if we had a certain kind of exotic material, we could use that material to, warp the space-time in front of a ship and condense it behind it, right? And then the ship travels within this condensed bubble, and then you re-expand it, and then you've effectively travel the distance faster than a ray of light would reach. That is permissible, again, within the framework of relativity. But the problem, though, is that it does invoke this exotic material, which we have no evidence that actually exists.
Dilithium crystals.
Dilithium crystals. Yeah. Well, actually, I think the mass of the material would have to have a negative value.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's no such
candidates
thing
in,
as
like,
negative mass as far
theoretical
as we know, right?
Yeah.
Mass is by definition you
Claire,
either have it
what-
or you don't. It's 0 or higher.
Yeah.
So
Claire,
Are there any candidates in theoretical physics that we think might someday meet that description?
none that I'm aware of, but I'd like to just also add that I'm not a theoretical physicist. I'm an astronomer, so I kind of focus on more of the things that we can understand and know about, and maybe seems a bit more mundane to most people. But yeah, as far as I've read, because I'm understandably curious, nothing in nature or even in theory seems to suggest that, oh yes, this stuff is very likely out there. There aren't any predictions of
okay.
such material.
Just briefly over in chat, Charles Alexander says, in Florida, we take speed limits as a starting point.
A suggestion.
Sure, but if the speed limit is C, it's not just a good idea, it's the law.
I've always theorized that science fiction, when you work it right down to the very core of the story, is always fantasy. And Faster Than Light is one of the classic examples of that. It's a gimme for the writer. You just say, all right, just so that we can have Star Wars, we're going to allow everybody to go faster
Sure.
than light. Just in an afternoon, we hop into the jalopy and fly off to visit Tatooine.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
But you can also tell some wonderful stories by leveraging relativity. And Bob Haldeman, I thought, did a fantastic job in the Forever Wars, which is not about going faster than light, but reaching speeds approaching light and then experiencing the time dilation effect. And then returning home, and everyone has aged or died out that you knew, and you come back to a land you don't recognize anymore, and the people don't know who you are or what you were doing out there.
Oh, you've seen Project Hail Mary, right?
Well, yes, absolutely.
Yes. Now, see, that's an interesting example of the limit being really a limit. The characters cannot change the fact that it takes this many light years to get from one planet to another.
Right. The character, I believe, went to Tau Ceti, and that's, I believe, 11 light years or so away, and he makes the trip in 4 years. No problem. No problem. Totally permissible by the law, by the theory of relativity. Now, granted, it's more than 11 years for his loved ones on Earth.
Right. And
but
so when he comes back, they'll all be dead, or if
maybe not dead, but they'll certainly be at least a couple of decades older, right? And so some of them could
shock,
some of them could die, right?
Yeah.
But I thought it was good that
is now a grandparent.
Yeah, under extreme. He would be, let's say, I don't know how long I really don't know how long he spends out there at Tau Ceti. I'm assuming at least several months, maybe a year. But let's just say, okay, fine, it's 4 years out, 4 years back. Okay, he's 8 years older and change, and everyone else is about 23, 24 years older. But I thought that was great because here again you're taking this real well understood phenomena and you use that to drive a story,
right?
And wow,
so that was very good. I that one I did approve of, and and even though you have to have some fantasy and science fiction, you can work it so that the science actually makes sense, and it's not a gimme all the way.
And again, that's that, and I'm not saying every story has to be like that, but that again, I think is a very nice way of helping the audience who might not have understood that before, become aware of it. Like, oh wow, you can age slower relative to people who are not moving as fast.
I'm thrilled with the movie simply because of the number of kids I think who will start thinking seriously about the sciences. You were mentioning that it was Star Trek that made you first start thinking about astronomy. It's not this is I'm hoping this movie will be the one for this generation, and some kid's going to step out of the movie theater and say, "I have to learn more."
I would hope so too. I would hope so
Oh,
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that my my friend Michael Brotherton, who actually started this workshop way back in 2007, likes to say is that, could you imagine if yeah, I'm not saying it would have to be central to the story or anything like that, but suppose in Harry Potter, you know, uh, the kids are going to an astronomy class and they learn something about astronomy. In a few paragraphs, J.K. Rowling could have exposed like, millions of kids and the adults who read them, right?
Mhm.
To some of these ideas, and that's kind of cool, So,
Yeah.
but she didn't, and that's fine. It's her right to do that, and I'm not saying she had to. I'm just saying, like, what if you do sprinkle in some stuff into your stories? You never know who you're going to reach or influence or inspire.
Mhm.
Well, how did Mike Brotherton get into this? I don't have the idea of outreach and educating the public by influencing the authors is really kind of a creative idea.
Yeah, I thought so too. And it's a shame you can't be here with us today, but I'll do my
Mhm.
best to tell it. And Mike, this is what you get for missing meetings. But anyway, the story goes that, well, like many of us in our field, we go to conferences
Mhm.
and we talk to fellow astronomers and things like that. And there's always talk about the research, but then there's also like chit chat on just life in general.
Mhm.
And Mike and I have both noticed the same thing, but I'll credit Mike with this because he then uses it. But he noticed that when he goes to uh, science fiction conventions and people find out, oh, he's an astronomer, they want to know about the research,
Mhm.
that he does, or what does he do as an astronomer. I get similar questions. What do I do, and all that kind of stuff. But then when you go to the professional conferences in astronomy and astrophysics, and Mike, in particular, this is where he can do this and I can't because Mike's actually a science fiction author himself. And once they were finding out that he himself is a science fiction author, wow, that's so interesting. How did you,
Mhm.
and that becomes the topic of conversation. So clearly, there's an interest from, you
Both
know,
sides.
right, from the non-science audience to understand
Mhm.
science, as well as an interest from the science side to share that knowledge with the public. And so that's when Mike was thinking, well, yeah, I'm an author. I'm trying to educate my audience. Maybe there's other authors that would like to be able to do the same. And thus the idea for what would become the Launchpad Workshop, you know, had begun. And then that started off, I think, in 2007. I didn't come on board until 5 years later, but yeah. So this is what our 19th year, I guess, in
Wow.
2026. Although I guess maybe 18th because we did have to skip in 2020, unfortunately.
Right.
But yeah, 19th calendar year.
Yeah.
I've been to the launch pad, and it's in Laramie, Wyoming, at the University of Wyoming,
Yes.
and it's during the summertime, so that there's nobody on campus, but assorted nutty people like science fiction writers. But the group that I think on that year that I was there was like 8 or 10 of us. I don't remember, and there you had some people who just come back every other year or so for another dose of uh, astronomy. And it was great because you're at such a high latitude that telescopes actually show you stuff.
Yes, we're very lucky there. Yeah, so in like I said, I'm in Maryland myself,
Mhm.
but yeah, Mike, it's his workshop, so he gets to have it at his place, and that's great because you're right. His place is much better suited to astronomy than where I live outside of Baltimore. It's pretty terrible, actually.
It is.
Yeah.
That's why I
Humidity
would
is terrible.
right.
Okay.
That
Wyoming is in the middle of the country,
Mhm.
yeah.
and but it's wide open prairie. Is
Mountains
Are there
behind.
flights there?
Uh,
Yes.
Can you
yes.
get there easily from any major airport?
Yes, you can. Laramie does happen to have a small municipal airport that supports commercial air, like commuter commercial air. Those flights, I'm not sure how often they run. They're not as often, but usually what we do to help save money and travel expenses is we invite people to fly into Denver International Airport, and that's
Mhm.
only 2 hours and change away from Laramie. And you have to understand, when you live out there, 2 hours is not that big of a drive. That's pretty common to drive for hours between cities. So we'll run down there and pick them up and
Yep, that's how they did me.
cart you up to,
Mhm.
yeah, we'll cart you up to
Yeah,
Wyoming, and
and
then
it's
we'll,
a high altitude, so
yes,
so you have to sort of think about that if you have like heart issues, particularly
yes.
because I could feel it, and I think I was there like 12 years ago,
Mhm.
and I could feel it myself, even though I was relatively young and had no health issues. But if you are older, you feel it when you climb the steps. When you climb the
Mhm.
steps up to that telescope, that was the other fun thing. We get to tour the telescopes and look at things. Uh, you can finally. I actually saw Andromeda, which I never have done with the naked eye because I never had any aids to do it. So it's very cool.
Um, now, a local Portland author, I will not mention names, attended Launchpad, and he and another alumni were just talking randomly about the workshop, and he replied to a question about some of the problems given to the students to solve. And he says, "Oh, I just wrote a new algebraic algorithm." And I just stopped. And I thought, now,
No,
wait a minute. I
no,
can't do that math.
not a math girl.
Is that
That is
typical?
not my strength.
No. Now I'm not sure. I don't recall ever giving our students an algebraic problem or even a mathematical problem to solve. Now that may have been done in during one of those earlier years before I got on board. Um, I can get into more of that a little bit later, but the the idea that to the extent that we teach it, we treat this. Sorry if I'm making any noise there. We treat this much like an introductory, a university level introductory astronomy course, but th- it's the introductory astronomy course that is aimed at non
Mhm,
physics majors, right?
mhm,
In other words,
Mhm.
we do show some mathematical relationships, which is really nice,
mhm.
but we don't expect people to calculate things with them. That's not really part
Yeah.
of the instruction. The idea is that we introduce you to these relationships, and if you'd like to use, that way you can use them later on when you decide, oh yes, I really do need to calculate the acceleration of gravity on a planet. Just so well, here you go. This is how you would do it. But they're not intended to be like assignments or like that. It's really just a lot of talks, a lot of presentations, lectures, if
Yeah.
just explaining this stuff as best we can, and lots of Q&A and discussion. And then we also take time to do like round robin discussions about like different the science and science fiction as well, which are
Mhm.
again meant to be very interactive. And how would you do this, or how would you
Yeah.
address this issue?
So post grad level math is not a requirement.
No,
Not
I
even
am
not even
very nearly
undergraduate.
innumerate. I don't even balance my checkbook. I have software to do that, and I had no problems with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can had a perfectly lovely time, you do not need to be able to even balance your checkbook because I can't do it.
Yeah.
That is good to know. And we
Yeah,
have Susan in the chat saying that you can also take the Amtrak to Laramie, which is fantastic. I actually love taking the Amtrak out west. Great scenery. So
the
I didn't I
mountains
didn't know you could do
around
that.
Laramie
Wow.
are just dazzling. It's
They
like,
really are.
you and when you're at the campus in the summertime and it's completely quiet and it is amazing. You say this is a whole separate different environment.
I will
Mhm.
add, actually, Brenda, to your point about feeling the altitude and so forth. Yeah. So Denver is the mile high city at 6,000 feet. Laramie is at 7,400 feet. And
Mhm.
then for one evening, we do go up to the peak of Gel Mountain, which is 9,600 feet, but that's where the telescope is.
Mhm.
So we delay that trip towards the end of the week so that people have at least a few days to get better acclimated. But yeah, unfortunately, as the place that makes it ideal for, or better suited for astronomy, is also the place that makes it much harder for us city slickers at low altitudes to adapt
Acclimate.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so some folks have had some. Unfortunately, they've had some issues. We've had to take some people to the emergency room, and so forth. And the absolute worst case, we just take them right back down to Denver. At least get them down, get them 1,000 feet lower if we can. But yeah, it's unfortunate. We don't want anyone to get sick, but we also understand if it does happen,
Yeah,
it
and
happens,
it's
and it
and
doesn't matter how
sometimes you can't predict how your
no,
reaction is. It's not like
that
you
was
can
it.
just sit there and look at her and say she's never going to make it.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was going to mention
And
next too, because
I-
you're right. It does affect different people differently.
Mhm.
It affects me sometimes. I was giving an explanation, and I said, "Oh yeah, and 3 squared is 6," and just kept on going. And Mike was like,
What?
"It's 9." I'm like, I said 9, and everyone said, "No, you said 6," and I could have sworn I said 9. And that's just how the altitude can mess with your head a little bit. Other
Mhm.
times I go there and I'm just perfectly fine.
So
So it's
if
like,
you've
doesn't make a difference.
recently had surgery, are on blood thinners, have a heart condition, think twice
Yeah,
about
Well,
going to this.
it might
yeah,
not be a bad idea. Yeah.
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 But it's like 1 week. Am I remembering correctly?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
That's right.
essentially it's sort of like summer camp. You've got housing and you've got meals in the
Yes.
chow hall, and you have activities, you're making, pot holders out of yarn loops or whatever they are. And so it's very, very like summer camp.
I don't know if we did the pot holders or the macaroni crafts when you were there or not, but yeah, we do try to give you a little something to do, and we also like to give you just plenty of time just to relax and take a nap or walk around and
Mhm.
see the campus and the town of Laramie. It's a beautiful, beautiful little town.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Oh well, I had a question in my mind. Okay, can you think of any printed, published examples of something that's egregiously wrong in
Oh,
science fiction?
Oh boy.
that's invidious, Phil. Invidious.
Yeah,
Maybe we could pick only authors who are dead.
yeah, that would be better.
Well, you
the-
can always pick on like Jules Verne, who has had some very strange ideas about geography and physics, but that's unfair. He was 19th century.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's stuff that's egregiously wrong. So I guess really we have to ask ourselves again. It goes back to what I was saying before. Like, what are we expecting from the novel? Are we expecting
Mhm.
anything to make any kind of sense?
Mm-hmm.
I
Bob,
was
you
just going
back?
to throw in something. Yeah. Sometimes we focus on wrongness, errors,
Yeah.
so we can sit back and from our pedestal of superiority and look down and say, yeah. But I also would admire those who make every effort to do it right,
Mhm.
Yes.
and we have to understand that sometimes, especially in the movies, what you can physically shoot and make work is not always going to be scientifically accurate, and scientifically accurate is oftentimes a moving target.
Mhm.
So we should sit back and enjoy. Go ahead. You're
I
saying
was.
something, Christian.
I think we might have lost his audio.
Yeah, I don't hear him, man. We lost your audio.
Well, here, let's send him a note on private chat. Christian. We can't hear you. Of course, he's got his hand gestures are phenomenal.
looking great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as I never understood Mesopotamian politics like I do now.
I was going to ask him whether there's any demand from the Hollywood or even from novelists. Can we maybe we should ask someone who actually knows about how faster than light travel should go. You would think there would be an industry doing this.
What was the question?
Whether he has whether Chris himself has had any gigs with talking to, let us say, Hollywood about how to make this movie
question you posed as an example.
Okay, I can't see it here. Damn it! All right, hang on. I've hit the wrong button. Here we go. We've lost him. I don't know what we can do.
No, he's still here. It
looks like he just realized it.
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. Private chat.
I think
there's a microphone icon at the bottom of your screen. Is that turned on?
I can't hear him.
Okay, well, he's figuring that out.
Yeah, hold on for a second. The icon is the gearbox. Oh, there is the microphone, yeah. But the gearbox and the microphone will both take you to places to maybe fix this.
Very weird.
Okay, well, people are fixing. I'm going to go to the chat. And Jenna Hannon Moore says 20,000 leagues under the sea would be out in space. We're not looking at, Jules Verne was not looking at depth of ocean. He was looking at distance traveled horizontally, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
There are issues that only appear when you practically experiment with it. Like the bends is a good example. Until you actually do that, you don't realize it's a problem. It sort of never would occur to you until there are depictions in medieval art of Alexander the Great going down to the bottom of the ocean. And there's no questions about whether he has oxygen or anything like that. It didn't occur to anybody to worry about it.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
Are you there, Chris?
Can't hear him. No.
We had audio for like a second. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, why these things happen when you don't do it yourself, I have no idea. I guess it's not really fair to pick on older authors because there's no way they could have known. The real problem, I think, is that your audience mostly does not realize that when there's an error. Nobody ever asks how it is that people on the Starship Enterprise are not floating in midair. There's obviously an artificial gravity, but that's sort of a gimme. No one has ever even asked the question, and you don't really want to have it. That's not what the whole thing is about, and it would be impossible to shoot on a Hollywood soundstage. And so they just said, we're going to skate right by this problem, no problems. And it's okay, we don't care. So if people don't care, it never happens. No one ever addresses the issue.
Yeah. Now, Babylon 5 did address that, where the Minbari had artificial gravity, but the Earth Alliance created gravity by spinning their spaceships. Spin is easy to accomplish.
And there's a couple of issues about it, like electrical cables and things like that. But in Project Hail Mary, that allowed the characters to turn the gravity on and off. We hit the button and it spins, and suddenly everything down shifts to the outside edge of the tubular aircraft, spacecraft, because now the artificial gravity is doing its thing. It is there's a lot of like practicalities that I think you'd only work out once you got up there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're having too much fun here. The other thing I think from the astronomy point of view is like when you're doing a movie, how do you select a cool?
All right, let me see. Am I back
system?
on?
I hear you. Do I hear you?
Yeah.
Talk,
Okay.
Chris. Talk.
Hi, I'm back.
There you are. Yay.
I had to
Now we
leave
can hear
twice and
everything.
come back in, but hello.
Okay, and now somehow Phil is not here, but maybe she'll come back. we were talking about the movies and about the demands of the movies, the visual genre,
Mhm.
and a lot of the times I don't think they care about accuracy in science at all. That's not the point of a Hollywood movie.
Sure.
So do they ever consult you and rake in a couple of experts just to stand in the back and say, no, no, this would never happen?
Well, I myself have never been consulted for a motion picture.
Mhm.
Now, there are plenty of astrophysicists who live in California near Hollywood just because of proximity to places like Caltech University and
Oh
places like
yeah.
that. And they sometimes do get called in. And
Mhm.
honestly, it depends on who's making the film.
Mhm.
If you have, well, if you're trying to make Project Hail Mary
Mhm.
into a movie, the author took care to make his story realistic, so the filmmakers also very wisely took care. But if you're J.J. Abrams and you don't care at all about doing anything accurate,
Mhm.
then no, why would they ever contact us? All that said, there are sometimes it's even worse because uh, we did have a guest at Launchpad, an attendee at Launchpad who uh, does in fact provide consulting for
Mhm.
Star Trek
Mhm.
as produced by Alex. Boy, what's his name now? Why, Alex Wiseman, I think, or anyway. But in any event, this is the new Trek, right? NU Trek,
Mhm.
right? So Alex Kurtzman. Okay, yeah. So I don't think it's him himself, but basically, the directive given to this astronomer is, here's what we want, make it happen,
Mhm. I believe it.
make it sound realistic,
Give
even
me
though what
the
they want,
jargon that sounds
right?
convincing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Make it work, make it sound plausible, make it. In other words, it's not, you don't push back on these people,
Mhm.
they got a show to make, and I can almost understand it to some extent. They are on a deadline, they're trying to get a show done,
Mhm.
et cetera, et cetera.
And they're under a budget. They cannot create artificial gravity
And
for you.
and
Sorry, it's
they're
just not
under a
happening.
budget, right? But at the same time, wow, what an attitude to take. And I would never take a job
Mhm.
like that. I couldn't. I
Your
would
hair would set on fire.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
would annoy me, and a lot of it is just sometimes, like, I don't want to just paint them all with the same brush, but some people out there in Hollywood have kind of like inflated egos, and they really just want to have their, this is the way I want it to be, my vision is the best vision, et cetera, et cetera, and
Mhm.
they can say, well, look, we had a science consultant, we had an astronomer look at this.
Mhm.
I
Did
couldn't be
they,
anybody's
yeah,
patsy like that.
they don't need to say the astronomer approved. They just said we
Your name is
consulted.
there. Yeah,
Right.
well,
They
Yeah.
at least you wouldn't be alone. I mean, all the history people, the costume people, the horse people, the gun people, they're all sitting there saying, no, you would never use a gun like that in 1871. And
Exactly.
nothing happens. The director said, I want a
Right.
bigger gun. Come on, get it up there. And then they
Right.
just did it.
But you
Yeah.
know what? You've got a lot of people, who really are trying to get
Mhm,
things right, and I might
mhm,
have to say, I've noticed a
mhm,
little bit of a trend in Hollywood science fiction where, yeah, you're starting to see a few more things come out, particularly by people who can do it the way they want,
mhm,
like, you know, Christopher Nolan, when he
mhm,
did Oppenheimer, like
mhm. Oh, yes. Mhm,
he was not going to chimp out, cheat out on the physics and hand wavy him on that. He went out of his way to make that as true to life as possible.
mhm.
Interstellar,
Right.
different story, but anyway,
Yeah. Going back to altitude reaction,
mhm,
Theo Williams over in chat, and I know he was a pilot. Um, he says that I know that altitude reaction issue flying above the LA basin a while ago in an unpressurized airplane at 11,000
yeah,
feet.
Ooh, don't do that.
The
above sea
pilot,
level,
yeah, the pilot and co-pilot started getting oddly spacey. Theo was navigating from the rear seat, By sheer chance, he used yoga deep breathing to keep his sinuses clear. And he had a higher blood oxygen level than the guys at the controls. They ignored his wanderings and made mistakes, which his warnings, excuse me, and made mistakes which oddly became obvious as we descended from altitude, and they almost ran out of fuel. So if you're in Laramie and you're climbing that mountain to get to the telescope, that's something to think about.
Yeah, do take a little bit of care out there, and thank you, Theo, for sharing that story. And I'm just very grateful that you're
Yeah.
around to tell it. But I thought that was a really good story about doing a lot of extra deep breathing, keeping that blood oxygen levels as high as you can. Yeah, altitude sickness is a very subtle thing. It does, like I said, it can affect you in a very benign way. Like you can't remember what 3 squared is supposed to be, or it could, yeah, it can just it becomes like a chain of mistakes that lead to tragedy. And so anyway, I think as long as you're breathing okay, and do you all carry monitors? I do not at that altitude. I know that for folks who are rigorous mountain climbers and they go to like 14, 15, 16,000 feet, they're supposed to, I think. I don't know. I would if I were them. But no, we don't personally do it. Like I said, it's one of those things where after you've been there for a while, you do acclimate. The problem, however, is that you're just not in Laramie long enough to fully acclimate.
Okay.
And you can, stay hydrated and take it easy and all those things, but there's a limit sometimes to just what your body will play ball with.
Exactly. And if
I do recommend taking the hydration seriously. I once went from sea level at 100% humidity to Denver, which is both altitude and desert, and I had an interesting time.
It is a desert. You don't realize how much you lose in a really dry climate, especially Maryland is humid, Colorado is not.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we're really selling the workshop. Hey, come to Laramie, and
you have to explain how to apply.
Is
there people can anyone just roll on up and do it? Particularly if you were saying that you had persuaded the National Science Foundation to kick in money, which is great. So it's not as costly as we think. But you've got to apply to get in, right?
Right. Regardless of whether there's funding or not, we always go on an application basis, and that's just because we just don't have the room to accommodate everybody. And by that I mean the logistics in terms of, yes, it's a whole college campus. Yes, we have large classroom buildings and things like that at the University of Wyoming, but we are ultimately limited on just how many people we can reasonably expect to accommodate, whether it's how many vehicles we can rent to bring people back, how many drivers we can scramble together, etc. Anyway, all that being said, it varies from year to year. We try to keep it at around 10 or so people. Keep the groups relatively small, which allows us to have like really great interaction with everybody, and a lot of people can cross collab and chat and get to know each other without spiraling off into cliques over here and a group over there. Now the application process, applications can be submitted through our website, which is launchpadworkshop.org. I know we had it up earlier, the URL earlier, but if you'd like to go ahead and put that on screen, or maybe put it in the description of your live stream or the chat, feel free. But launchpadworkshop.org is our website. Now, we are accepting applications for the 2026 workshop through April 15th. Woo! So it's coming up. And we'd like to ask people about, well, what do you write? What's your publishing history like? Who are your audiences? And what do you plan to do with what you are hoping to learn at this workshop? And the reason we ask those questions is because we're trying to not reach a diversity of guests to the workshop. We're trying to reach a diversity of audiences. So we're really trying to see who could potentially benefit, which is ultimately the consumer of whatever the author or creator wants to create. So yeah, it is a application process. The hardest part about what we do is trying to winnow through all the applications. We always get way more. Uh, we usually get about 30 or 40 each year, and we try very hard to give our very best assessments and try to bring people to the workshop that we think are really going to benefit from it, and that their audiences will benefit from it as well.
It's interesting that the basic idea is to influence the authors. It's because the author has the original power to make it authentic. Project Hail Mary was authentic because the author made it that way at the beginning, and that's what made the book sell, and that's what made the movie go. But if the author had not been thinking about that, it never would have happened. So you're getting sort of at the root of the issue.
Agreed.
I have a storytelling question.
Sure.
My area is biology, and sometimes I look at media and I think it's not that this is wrong, it's that it could have been so much weirder and more interesting if they had a better science consultant and more unique. Do you ever see things like that where you're like, wow, that was a missed opportunity to do something that would actually have been more interesting if they understood the science?
All the time. Yeah.
And you can't go back and say to them, Christopher Nolan is not going to be interested in hearing about what that movie back there 3 years ago. It's over. Right. It's in his rearview mirror. So it's sad.
Well, yeah. And the other thing is that we have Mike and I, we're both dyed-in-the-wool Trekkies, and we I'll pick on TV fiction because I don't want to start name checking people, but Mike and I tried to catch up on a little bit of Star Trek together, and one year not too long ago we spent our evenings I won't say hate watching, but certainly cringe watching Star Trek Discovery, another Alex Kurtzman joint. And we there was this one scene where they had this black hole, I think, that they were encountering, and Spock in the back rattles off all of this stuff about black holes. Well, black hole is a singularity where the escape velocity is greater than light. So if you cross over the event horizon, we'll be sucked in forever. And it was kind of like, cool, okay, you got that right. But then they said, okay, well, let's go through the edge of the, or like, no, wait, what did you just say? You're not going to, it was this. They got that as whoever that science consultant, that astronomer, got that into the script. Good for them. But then they just went and blew it off, or actually I'll go back to Star Trek Voyager, right? Many years ago, they're face to face with another black hole, and we've got to be careful not to fall into the event horizon. And the one character, Kess, asks the other character, Neelix, what's an event horizon? I thought, well, this is going to be good. We're going to teach the audience. And Neelix says, an event horizon is an energy field that surrounds the black hole. And I was just like, would it have killed you to just explain that? Like, I don't know why. I don't know why people do what they do. But anyway. So if you go to our website, launchpadworkshop.org, and you're interested in applying, please do.
Yeah.
We're accepting applications through April 15th, and our workshop will be held this July 15th, the week of July 15th.
Yeah, it's only 1 week, and it's in the summertime, so your chances of not having class or having some summer vacation are reasonable.
Well, that's why Mike and I do it, because I do.
You're not running classes at your universities at this moment.
Well, I do teach a summer class, but yes, I'm finished by the time we run the workshop. So, yeah.
Okay.
So that's the URL. Yeah. The other one was for our planetarium where I work.
Yeah. Bob has just posted the link in the chat, and Towson EDU, I believe, is where you teach.
Yes, I teach at Towson University in Maryland. So we are literally right outside Baltimore. So we're basically in the city as well, and there I run. Well, I'm an astronomy professor there at Towson, and I also run the planetarium. So I think that was the other link that
Mhm. Yeah,
was
that Bob,
posted in the chat. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I just wanted to pop in with a piece of advice too. Many of us who maybe never will find an opportunity to go to a workshop like that have local community colleges.
Mhm.
Local community colleges, it's very frequent, even if they don't have an observatory, to offer an introduction to astronomy course. And they're fascinating and valuable because, hey, you may never really want to calculate the gravitational
No, I
uh,
never do that.
attraction between two bodies freestanding out in space. But guess what? You don't need calculus. The formulas exist for high school algebra students, um, and it's empowering
It
when you're
is.
there trying to write something to say, "Oh, here, let me go spend 15 minutes, pull up my textbook, and see what that says," um, and just enjoy it. So take advantage of the resources here that Chris is talking to, but also take advantage of resources that may be across the street from you. I
Right.
used to live across the street from community college, and that's where I just decided, hell yeah, I'm going to take that course. So
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, Brenda is doing a lot of non-credit classes at Portland State. And if you go to one of the community colleges attached, semi-attached to Portland State, there is a planetarium in Portland.
Yep,
So
there is.
even if you're going to classes in Beaverton, Hillsborough, whatever, you can take a special trip to the planetarium.
The other angle, which is not that well known, is you have to check with your state government. Uh, a lot of states have a law that allows senior citizens to audit courses for free at state universities, and so if you're not actually planning to get a degree in astronomy, which uh, maybe you do not actually want to do that, if you don't need the credits for a degree or for a job, then you could just take courses that are fun, and there's a nominal fee to do this, but these are benefits that are open to you, and it's good for your mind. I didn't actually go to Launchpad because I was planning to write a space opera. I wanted it as sort of the general stuff you add into your mind, and then we'll roll around and produce fiction later on. And it's you want to have that room. You want to have that incoming stuff, so that so that the years of your novels can grind around nice.
Yeah. I learn something new every day, and it's all fodder for the fiction mill.
Exactly.
Including ambulance rides and the smell of having a mole burned off your skin. But still, it's fodder for the fiction mill.
Yeah. You don't actually do any writing yourself, right, Chris? Tell us you're pure.
Right. No, I don't write. My wife is an author, however. And and my mother was an English professor, so I really have to learn how to speak good.
Good.
My mom would give me my mother, of course, was, typical Italian mother, and if she heard that, she'd come down and give me a smack. Yeah, she'd smack me right across the face. Yeah. But yeah, no, I don't write fiction. My creative outlet is in the planetarium, and I also have a YouTube channel that it's been in mothballs for a little while, but I'm going to try to get it back out and get to work on it. So.
Okay, we're down to about 5 minutes.
Mhm.
So I guess it's time to do the wrap up. Chris, it's been wonderful having you here and learning so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Uh,
Really
uh,
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
good.
I think that people need to know more about Launchpad.
Thanks for helping to get the word out, because our
Yeah.
advertising
Yeah.
is all word of mouth.
Well,
Okay.
and this chat will eventually be up on YouTube, so you could link it to your YouTube channel, you know.
Oh, okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Brenda, what do you have coming up?
Well, later this month, I have a major novel coming out from Bookview Cafe, and it is titled Off the Screen, and it will be, it is about rebooting American democracy, and the conceit is it is set 150 years in the future, and after the political turmoils of the 2020s and the 2030s, they had to fix American democracy, and so they did, and then hijinks ensue.
Okay. And you will be our special guest next month to pimp your book.
Yeah, we'll go into exhaustive detail about this because it's I had not planned to write it such a politically relevant work, but there you are. And the other thing that it's about musical theater, and so that's fun.
Yeah. Claire, what have you been up to and have coming out?
Yeah, I have a PlanetSide article on neuroscience in world building and alien biology coming out in June, I believe. That's the date they've given me currently. So for folks designing alien species, that'll be good. That's all I've got going on right
That's
now.
really exciting. And are you going to be? Is anyone going to be at Worldcon in August in LA? Yay! Yay!
Yeah.
I
I'm not
don't know,
sure.
Phil, whether you're going to try to do it or not, but that is,
Yeah. Until I have the ultrasound a
yeah.
week from tomorrow, I won't know if I am able to travel at all.
Right.
And
It is.
airplanes and blood clots do not go well together.
Yeah, I may be forced to do something complex like take Amtrak to LA, but I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I will if I have to.
We'll talk.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we will.
I have, even through all of the medical adventures and depressions and whatnot, I have continued to write.
And you have a book coming out.
Yes, I have it's not a new book. It's a reprint, but I have made so many changes to it that it's almost a new book. It's got a new title, new cover, new author. Lord,
A new author, I like that.
yeah. Well, originally the Transference Engine was written by Julia Verne St. John when Dahl was requiring me to change my name every time I had a new book, new genre, whatever. So now that I got the rights back, I have re-edited it, rearranged things, added explanations, and deleted fluff.
And you're using your real name.
Yes.
Yay!
Lord Byron's Curse by Irene Radford will be out May 5th.
Yay! We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, I gave Bob a link for the Amazon pre-order, but it was one of those links that's, like 85 lines long. And so just go to any of your major booksellers, and it's available for pre-order at the moment. And then I'm also doing the same thing to the Star Gods trilogy, which was a mess, I admit. It was very poorly written and not edited at all. So I've done a lot of cleanup on the Star Gods trilogy, and they will be out one right after another, either, if not in December, January, February, then January, February, whatever. And what else? I think that's all I've got going at the moment.
We will have so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, I need a beta reader for a short story.
Are you looking at me?
Yes, I'm looking at you.
All right. If it's really, and I know what I'll do. I will send you this short story, and we can beta read each other.
Okay. Yeah.
I wrote a short story this week, and
yeah, I had a story in Weir by Zombies Need Brains about
Oh,
a
okay.
were rat.
Okay.
Now this
Okay.
one is a were squirrel.
Email it to me.
Okay, I need to go through it one more time and then
Okay. How long is it?
it's about 4,000 words.
Okay. My short story is less than 3,000 words, and it's about Hamlet and Elsinore.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, thank you all for being here. It's been fun. I've learned a lot, Chris. You've made it
Thank you.
a
Yes.
really
Yes.
good Sunday morning. And
Yes.
Bobby's back.
Yay.
Thank you all for having me. Really enjoyed myself. Thanks.
Thank
Well,
Yeah, thank you.
we enjoyed having you, and I would love to think that we can get you back. Uh,
Sure.
because I know that Elon Musk is going to set in his own personal private lab and invent warp drive so that he can uh, broadcast his manifesto from inside the orbit of Saturn, where he's going to have FTL uh, uh, communications so that we can have a chat session. And I'd like you there to be able to talk about it.
Sure. I think and given Musk's track record, I think he will claim to have invented FTL to pump up his stock and then not deliver on it.
That
Wait
seems
a
to be the
second.
current tactic.
You mean that those big, long, funky looking cars aren't trucks? Oh shit. Well, anyway,
They're
thank
bad
you.
origami practice.
Oh, bad origami. Hey, I found origami. I found once one of the cranes.
Yes, the
I
paper cranes.
took it to the college school where I was going at the time. It was called Introduction to Physics, and when I got in there and they were explaining unit conversion, and one of the women in the row behind me said, "We got told there wouldn't be any math in this course." And after class, I asked, and I found out it was an education major course. It was a 300 level physics course designed to give education majors a physics course. I made a deal with the instructor. I wouldn't sit in class and ask questions, and he wouldn't make me be there for anything but the test. And it worked out wonderfully. But when I was there, I took that little origami thing and I took it apart and put it back together, took it apart until finally I could make one from scratch. So someday I will be able to make a Tesla truck from a piece of cardboard if they didn't do that already.
Cardboard stronger.
Yeah.
Pasteboard. Anyway, thank you so much for coming, Claire. It's always a pleasure. And Brenda, who has unleashed the Kraken for this week. I hope you all enjoy if you do make it to WorldCon, because they're always a pleasure.
It'll be probably the last one in the United States for a long time, so we should enjoy it.
Oh, I have a sticker for that. I bought me a bunch of little stickers that I hope they don't wind up on gas station pumps with a picture of Trump saying, "I did that."
Oh.
You can put it right underneath the price tag.
Right. All those $10 eggs at $10 a dozen. Boo.
Hey, that's only the president's fault if the president is a Democrat. The budget is only important if the president is a Democrat. And now, when I see that man has the audacity to do what he's doing with our budget, saying we just don't have with all the wars we're fighting, we ain't got the money to feed the poor.
Medicaid.
They're brown,
Yeah.
Well,
my Facebook page is politics free.
Well, you know what, Phil?
Yeah.
This podcast isn't.
I
And
knew that.
In case anyone was
But for those of you, are we still online?
Yes, we
Oh,
are.
you
We
bet
probably
your-
should let people go.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I was thinking about it, but
Okay.
that was my way of coming on board and closing it out and saying goodbye. And remember, whatever you do, vote. Don't remain silent in the face of of wrongness and stupidity, because I saw it online and I believed it. That says if your buddy says to you, well, we don't see eye to eye, but we can still be friends. And his political views is women don't control their bodies, children don't deserve to be educated, um, the sick don't deserve to be treated. Then maybe you really need to think closely about what your idea of being friends is, because you know what? We can't be silent when we're confronted with that kind of attitude, because silence is consent. That said, any last words, Christopher? You're the smartest person in the room here, I think. So I'll let
Oh,
you.
I doubt that very much. But thank you again for having me, and you know, uh, wishing you all a great rest of your day and weekend. Have
Oh,
Yeah, it was
Easter
great
or
to have
Easter or
you.
not. Yeah, thank you.
excellent. Last question for Brenda.
What
Did
is
you
my
warn
last?
him? Did you warn him?
No, I didn't. I'm afraid that we just threw him into the deep end. But I knew you could handle it, Chris.
I thank you. I watched last week's stream with Jim
Okay.
Wright and David Gerald, and I thought,
Okay. See?
Then I thought, why did they want to talk to me? But anyway, thank you again. This has been great.
We welcome you, and you take care, and goodbye. I'm going to